Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about solving equations. So the first thing we're going to look at are some vocabulary and key concept ideas. So the first thing we need to know is what is an equation. So up to now we've been working with some expressions. So an equation has an equal sign. So I'm trying to make the left and the right hand side of my equal sign be equal. An open sentence is an equation with one or more variables, and the solution of an equation is the value of the variable that makes the equation true. So this is always the goal, is to find a solution to my equation. That's always going to be our goal. What's the value of the variable that makes my sentence true? Okay, so the first thing we need to know is why are we able to solve equations? So, why am I able, um, why am I able to solve an equation? So, the subtraction property of equality. So basically, my properties are my mathematical rules that allow me to do something. So if I subtract the same value from each side of an equation, the two sides remain equal. So that means if 2 times 3 equals 6, so 2 times 3 minus 4 is the same, my equal sign, as saying 6 minus 4. If A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. Okay? When I'm solving an equation, I'm going to use inverse operations. And inverse operations are operations that undo each other. So this is going to be another key idea. And our additive property of equality tells us if we add the same value to each side of the equation, the two sides remain equal. So again, if 2 times 3 equals 6, 2 times 3 plus 4 has to be the same as 6 plus 4. So whatever I do to the left-hand side, I have to do to the right-hand side. Whatever I do to the left-hand side, I have to do to the right-hand side. Okay, so let's take these theories and put them into action. So I'm going to solve an equation by subtracting. So this is my question. H plus 9 equals 14. So again, to solve an equation, I'm going to use inverse operations. So what's the opposite operation of adding? Subtracting. Whatever I do to the left-hand side, I have to do to the right-hand side. So if I'm adding 9, to cancel that out, I'm going to subtract 9. That gets me 0. Now I'm left with h. I always want to isolate my variable on one side of the equation. So I've isolated my h. So h is equal to 14. I subtracted 9. So on this side I have to subtract 9. So h is equal to 14 minus 9, which is 5. So h is equal to 5. Again, I'm subtracting 9 from each side to undo my addition and get h by itself. Now, how do I check to be sure that h is really equal to 5? Well, my number of 5 I substitute in for h. So I take my 5 and I put it back into my equation. So instead of saying h plus 9, I can now say 5 plus 9. 5 plus 9, is that equal to 14? It surely is. 14 is equal to 14. Okay, so that's just solving an equation. Now let's look at actually writing out our own equation to help us solve a problem. Rita's height in first grade was 44 inches. In the fourth grade, Rita's height was 51 inches. How many inches did she grow between first and fourth grade? So the first thing I have to know is what's something that I can use to model the situation. So I know how tall is she in fourth grade. So I know in fourth grade she's 51 inches. So that's my end result. So something plus something has to equal 51. How tall was she in first grade? She was 44. So 44 is what she started with. I want to know how much did she grow? So I'm going to use h as my variable. 44 plus whatever I grew is equal to my height in fourth grade. So now this is the equation that I'm solving. 44 plus h equals 51. How am I going to solve for h? If I'm adding 44 to cancel out, I need to subtract 44. Whatever I do on the left-hand side, I have to do on the right-hand side. So I'm going to subtract 44. 51 minus 44 should be 7. So if h is equal to 7, what's my question asking me? How many inches did Rita grow between first and fourth grade? Rita grew 7 inches. So again, this is my original equation that I have to write. I have to write my original equation as 44 plus h equals 51. How do I solve for h? Well, I'm going to end up subtracting because that's what my inverse operations tell me to do. Whoops. Okay. Now I want you to do the next slide, which are going to be you try problems. So you're going to try 2 of these by yourself. So hit pause, and I will be back with the answers. Okay. I'm solving for w plus 4 3/10 is equal to 9 1/10. So my answer should be 4 8/10. Just because I have decimals doesn't change anything. It's the same process. So I have to subtract. If I'm adding, I need to get rid of 4.3. How do I cancel that out? I subtract. Whatever I do on the left-hand side must do on the right-hand side. All right. Our other one is talking about how much did our cat weigh last year. So my equation is going to be my end product is 11 6/10 pounds. So I know that 11 6/10 has to be equal to whatever it weighed plus 1 8/10 pound. So this is my original equation. 11 6/10 is equal to W plus 1 8/10. You could also write it this way. Would be okay. Whichever way, you find out that W is equal to 9 8/10, and it's asking us how many pounds did she weigh. So my final answer should be W is equal to 9 8/10 pounds. All right, so we're going to move on and do a couple more examples. Our problems are going to be similar to what we just did, except this time to cancel out and to be able to solve for p. If I'm originally subtracting, how am I going to isolate p by itself? Well, I'm going to isolate p by doing the opposite of subtracting, which would be adding. So I'm going to be adding 22 3/10 this time. So now I have 5 8/100 plus 22 3/10. So again, I'm adding 22 3/10. So if I do 22 3/10 plus 5 8/100, I'm going to get 27 3/800. Again, how do I check to solve? How do I check that this is actually the right answer? Well, I plug this number back in for p. So 27 3/800 minus 22 3/10 gives me 5 8/100, which is what we had up here, so I know I'm right. All right, so let's look again at a word problem. The sale price of a CD is $11.49. This is $3.50 less than the regular price of the CD. I'm trying to figure out what is the regular price of the CD. So we're going to use a variable of R to represent the regular price, because R and R, that makes sense. Okay, so now we're going to say, I know the sale price is $11.49. So that's what I'm kind of ending with, right? So that's what I'm going to write here. So $11.49 has to be equal to, it has to be the same amount as what? Well, 350 less than tells me I'm going to be subtracting 350. What am I subtracting 350 from? I'm not sure yet. That's why I'm putting in an R there. So R minus 350 is equal to $11.49. So this, again, is the equation now that we're trying to solve. So we went from words into a number sentence. Okay, so now I am solving for R. R is going to tell me the solution of my equation. So how do I solve for R? I need to isolate R by itself. To do that, if I'm subtracting 350 to cancel out, I need to add 350. So I need to add 350. So R is going to be equal to $14.99. So what's the regular price of my CD? You're catching on, $14.99. Right? I believe there should be 2 more you try problems for you to do. Maybe 3. So go ahead and hit pause and you will solve for n minus 53 and 2/10 is equal to 28 and 4/10. Tell me the answer to that, and we'll be back in just a minute. All right, let's see how we did here. I added 53 and 2/10 to both sides of my equation to isolate n by itself, and I got that n is equal to 81 and 6/10. And then our second question, I want to know, we're writing an equation. The difference of Raj's height and 20 is 60. So again, I'm using R to represent his height. So I'm thinking, what is my end result? My end result is 60. So I know that has to go on one side of the equal sign by itself. The difference of a height and 20. So difference tells me I'm going to be subtracting. So R minus 20 is equal to 60. That will be the sentence that I write for my equation. And I believe that is it for today. So we will see you next time.